Good afternoon. Welcome to the Meltdown. Sorry for cutting you all short this morning. Just had a lot of stuff going on in the office, and boy, did they need me. Folks, I really try to spend a lot of time talking about the things that are relevant to our lives. Just as I was updating everything, I updated to look at what was going on in the world, and lo and behold, there's a picture. This is Warren County Undersheriff Sean Lamery, and the discussion, or whatever this posting is about a $500,000 vehicle that was made for the Iraq War. I find it interesting because it's 18 tons, 36,000 pounds, armored, something I've never seen during any of the clips of the Iraq War. 5 miles to the gallon, and these vehicles are being given to law enforcement. 5 county sheriff departments and 3 other police agencies in New York are now in delivery of these vehicles. And of course, it gets us one step closer to a police state. If you are listening and you want to believe in any right-wing, quote, conspiracy theory, although, folks, here's the vehicles, here's the expense. These things were shipped back over here. And ultimately, my concern is, where do we go from here? What are we going to do? How are we going to continue to fund everything that's going on in the country? And of course, last Thursday, Michael did a show, talked at length about the $4 trillion of infrastructure that needed to be done, how we're going to continue to perceive to move forward, and all the other problems that are going on in the world. I'm looking at what's going on here in the country, and of course, we talk multiples about what we're going to do and how we're going to perceive our economy moving forward. Now, of course, I believe that the Geneva Accords are probably pretty fruitless if you listen to the mass amounts of politicians. And I appreciate Michael. He puts together a great blog for me, and some contribution by myself, some by Michael. We pull it all together and we look at markets. And so I can tell you that the low for gold today was $12.27. The high was just about $12.55. We're trading at $12.49 bid, $12.50 ask. Silver almost up 1%. Platinum hadn't done anything. Palladium up $6, represents almost 1%. The gap continues to close. It's a day trade situation. I know it was a little over 62.5 ounces of silver to an ounce of gold. That's backed off a fraction. We're still at a 10% premium, platinum over gold. And what does all that mean in the big picture? It just simply means that at a time where the economy is in such question, we wonder what we're going to do, how we're going to perceive moving forward. I look at the price of oil. I certainly see the concern over the dumping and Iran flooding the market, but Michael and I were chatting before I came on live. That'll probably just upset Saudi Arabia and several of the Gulf states. They'll probably decrease production, not allow the market to flood to keep the price up. And that's just part of manipulation in, quote, the world markets. Now, the dollar has been strong today. And, these are all cross-currency transactions. The Nikkei overnight was up about 1.5%. And so what's the value of money? That's what it really boils down to. And for the wealthy, they get wealthier as long as the pedal stays down and quantitative easing continues. What really becomes more interesting is what happens when you try to go spend money. When you go overseas, what's the value of the US dollar? And yes, it certainly is something that people love to look at and love to see. There's no doubt about that. Everyone loves dollars, particularly in the African nations. But what it really boils down to is the value of collectibles and why collectibles are so in vogue. Now, I can tell you point blank that I've got a good friend who went and tried to liquidate a position, and the position had a value of about $3,000 to $3,500. Ultimately, a local dealer here in the Houston market offered barely over $1,000 and tried to pay 30 cents on the dollar. Now, good friend says, Brett, what the heck's going on? And it goes back to the debate over what is the value of anything. If you got a home and the home is $100,000 home, a $500,000 home, $1 million home, that may be what it's worth to you. In a fire sale, what's it worth? And ultimately, that's where the real question becomes, how fast do you need the money? How bad do you need to get out of it? And would you take 30 cents on the dollar? If it was 100 grand, would you take 30? And of course you wouldn't, unless you stood to gain nothing. And if it was $500,000, would you be in a position where you might consider taking 150? And so I look at the same issues with value to collectibles, and I see that the continuation of a market appreciating depends on who you go to at any given moment. Now, I told the gent if he went to a couple of other dealers, he'd probably find himself getting a much more fair offer. And as opposed to 30 cents on the dollar, I managed to help, assist, and gain of two different boxes of value. We were able to achieve over $1,400 out of just one box. So always looking to try to help people. I look at Goldman Sachs and their hedge fund, and of 783 funds analyzed by position, my big concern at $1.7 trillion worth of value is, of all these things, who do they like? Why do they like them? Where's the upside? Where's the downside? And those are part of what the big banks are looking at. What is the real value out there? And so my concern moving forward is, how do we perceive where we're headed and what we're going to accomplish? Now, it's from that standpoint that we look at true value. And my concern over true value is that things are worth what other people will pay. But take it to an auction and you're liable to see 20, 30, 50% over value. Ultimately, that's what the market really matters. And ultimately, value is a perception. Unfortunately, perception is reality. And ultimately, it's from that standpoint that I can tell anybody an ounce of silver that trades for $20 is only worth what somebody else will pay for it. So in a market with a silver dollar, I paid today $21 for coins that I'm going to get $22.50 for. It doesn't leave a lot of margin for profit. And dealers that are larger than me will work tighter than that. The difference is if things start to change and the buyers start to outpace the sellers. Now, I can tell you that at $20 silver in large quantity, it would be difficult to buy silver American Eagles for much under $25 a piece. And so from $25 a piece, $5 over spot, we're talking about a premium that's pushing 25 percentage points. That's a pretty big margin. Doesn't mean the dealer's making that much profit. It ultimately means that from a standpoint of profit and loss, the margin stays tight, couple percentage points, but the market itself dictates the value. If you want to own silver maple leafs, the same amount of purity, legal tender value is $5 Canadian. Then you've got to go through the currency swap to figure out what it's really worth. Now, I can tell you that's still a 20% premium over the melt value. If you want to buy a silver round, you're going to pay $23. Clearly a 15% premium. And so premiums widen even though the market's contracting because there's still a cost to pull it out of the ground, a cost to make the plancha, a cost for the marketing, a cost for the distribution, cost of commissions, all of these things continue to add up and create more of an issue. And so from my perspective, I can continue to help direct you into the cheapest commodity that's out there. That does not mean it's the one with the most profit. And that's what I've tried to convey year in, year out since, gosh, I guess I became pretty much a full-time coin dealer in 1988, in spite of the fact that collecting and I was around it for years before that. That's 25 years. And folks, you've got to understand that there are coins that get taken and stolen and people remove them from their holders, the PCGS or the NGC holder, any of the other companies that are out there that authenticate and grade. Currency is the same way, whether it's PCGS or PMG graded. Deception is rampant, and there's a difference between not knowing or understanding and intentionally misdirecting. Those are true differences. And ultimately, the leverage or the arbitrage that certain dealers function within is absolutely not an issue of impropriety. Out and out stealing is. And so I want to hone in on, why do people pay $1.5 million for a 1796 quarter in mint state 67 plus? They do it because there aren't any others. The elite want the rarest, the best value moving forward. The rest of society that doesn't understand the market is going to deal in what they understand or where they've got the most comfort. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily the best deal. You know, I can sell $20 gold pieces and work on a 7% margin, and that would appear to be a better deal than to buy a silver American Eagle or a silver Maple Leaf. I'm going to work on a tighter margin selling the piece of silver. I'm going to do you a better service by putting you in the $20 gold piece. Now, goals and objectives, they really do matter. I try to reiterate that over and over and over again. And it's more than just a cliche. It's a way of living. It is a reason why a third, and a third works so well. And when I talk about Texas Children's Hospital, which I do all the time, one of the advocates, one of the areas that Texas Children's Hospital functions within is to get 500 gifts for the 500 children that will probably be taken into the hospital up through the end of this calendar year. And so I'm going to talk about Laura Shuford, S-H-U-F-O-R-D, and if you will email giving, G-I-V-I-N-G, at texaschildrens.org. She is the Vice President of Development for the hospital at 6621 Fannin. If you can provide a donation, please go by, drop off any amount of toys, boys or girls. They would take anything, you know that. These are people that are very important to me, and I appreciate any kind of donations to the hospital, but this is a special need for 500 children. Of course, they would take in 5,000 gifts and figure out how to store it and take care of distribution. It's very important to me. Now, I do get emails about all kinds of coins, and I had a gentleman in just a few moments before I went on air, had a golden dollar. It was Thomas Jefferson, the second president, and it looked like a machine error that was produced at the U.S. Mint. Unfortunately, not all errors maintain a value or a premium, and so it's from that standpoint that I'm more willing to tell you. Everything keeps a value of some sort. Of course, you got to find the right buyers and the right sellers for the product. And so whether it's old commemorative coins, the Washington Carvers. They're going to range in a value of $10 to $15 on the low end. You could spend hundreds or thousands on the high end. And so everything maintains value. And if maybe you're not interested in liquidating, or you're not totally interested in adding to a collection, but you're trying to figure out what to add or how to inventory, and you've just got basic generic questions of the market, I want to be able to help you. Heck, I help dealers when they've got questions about thefts. Worked with a good friend this morning on one. And so there's a lot of knowledge stored in between the years, and the gray was really something that's come in over time. It wasn't something I put in this morning. So if that's where you find yourself and you're trying to figure out how to move forward and take advantage of markets, or maybe it's something you inherited or something that you already own and you just want to get that special touch, somebody with a non-biased opinion that understands the market, then you're the person I want to talk to. You can reach out to me at 281-548-2646. That's 281-548-2646. You can email me, Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at thegoldexchange.net. That's Brett with 2 T's at thegoldexchange.net. Now, folks, you can leave a message. Hit option 0 when you call the store. Leave a message. We'll be more than happy to get it returned. The other side of all of this is understanding that collectibles come in many different forms in many different markets. And while we talk about bubbles, and I did that last week, whether it's the art bubble, the car market, jewelry, or any other bubble, real estate's probably the one that's most interesting. I keep a map of the country behind me. Not the whole country is populated. There are parts of the country that are very, very, very sparse. Ultimately, liquidity and value are a product of where we decided we wanted to lay stake and build and build and build. And that's why in New York they build up, and here in Texas we build wide. What I'm going to tell you is this is a huge market, and there are thousands of coin dealers scattered throughout the United States and throughout the world. I don't deal in foreign material for one simple reason: liquidity. And so a third, and a third is designed to keep you liquid at least 2/3 of the time. The question is what you've got to work with and how you build it, and whether you're buying slot machines or whether you're buying rare pens or stamps or coins or currency. There's so many different markets out there, and I guess that's the message for today. As you move forward, diversification is about owning multiple types of assets and multiple qualities. Have the coins or the currency or anything third-party authenticated and graded. Ultimately, the condition as well as the item itself will matter moving forward as you decide how you're going to diversify your portfolio. Those are the important facts, and they should always be asked of everybody that's involved in any kind of a transaction. That having been said, I never get off air without thanking Texas Children's Hospital, both the Downs Clinic and the Ronald McDonald House. At the Downs Clinic, if you go to themeltdown.com, click on the donation banner. Your information is totally anonymous for me, but ultimately the information will generate that 501c3 charitable contribution. You can get the receipt, deduct it from your taxes. The Ronald McDonald House at Texas Children's, on the 4th floor, 20 rooms, 40 to 62. Gosh, some nights I'm sure they've got them stacked up on the walls. Each family, of course. And if you can provide a hot meal to the people that are at the Ronald McDonald House, please call 832-824-8600. That's 832-824-8600. Nancy Allen and her staff would be more than happy to help accommodate you, whether it's a hot meal, 20 to 40 people minimum, or a donation, tithe, or an offering. Appreciate everybody who works at Texas Children's, the doctors, nurses, staff, and of course the volunteers. Folks, we'll be back tomorrow, good Lord willing. Appreciate you listening in. If you've got any questions, please email me, Brett, B-R-E-T-T, at thegoldexchange.net. Give a call to the store, 281-548-2646. Have a great evening. Y'all stay warm, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.